it's not supposed to be your ego. So you wear this to, the music is important, playing is important, not who's playing. So that's why they wore this. So it's not, the person doesn't matter. The sound, the playing matters. We sailed from San Francisco down to Mexico. Set out to do that, but then ran into some problems, so turned back and went back to Mexico, to the marina.
Okay.
And then in Mexico, I did some stuff and fixed up some things and made some adjustments, and then we set off, said, well, we'll forget about going to Tahiti. We'll just go straight to Hawaii and then over to Japan.
Okay.
So we set off for Hawaii, and
Meet Fuu Miyatani French, probably the only registered Black Komuso in Japan. French is a man of many talents, a reality that is made manifest in his knack for martial and visual arts, music, and sailing. We spent some time with French in Osaka, and this is his story. Welcome to another episode of the Melanated Files. My name is Ranzo and I'm your host, and today we're joined by French. We are in Osaka. So French, please introduce yourself to the world.
my name is French. In Japan, I'm known as Fuu Miyatani French. I'm a sailing instructor, kung fu instructor, a musician, sometimes photographer. What else I do? Kyudo, Sandan Kyudo. Let's see what else. Oh, Shakuhachi player. I'm the only, if not the first, maybe the first, if not the only, Kumoso, registered Kumoso, which is the Shakuhachi player that wears, you see him in the samurai movies that wear the basket over the head, the Zen Priest. So yeah, and I'm a Chinese Chan Buddhist Priest. So Chan is the Chinese word for Zen. So I'm a Zen priest.
So you guys heard it. French has a very fascinating story, a man of many hats. We're gonna explore some of these things later on in this interview, so stay tuned for that. Hey guys, Ranzo here. This will be really quick. I just want you guys to know about our live streaming channel, BEJ Live, where we will be live streaming exclusive live content for you guys as well. We also have introduced a brand new series entitled Rollin' with Ranzo, where I will take you guys on adventures across Japan and elsewhere. So look out for those videos on this channel right here. Also follow us on social media on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at TheBlackXJP. And remember to join our Facebook group as well, the Black Experience Japan group on Facebook as well. And if you guys would like to support us further beyond watching and sharing the videos, find us on Patreon as well. You can become a Patreon supporter. There you can also purchase for yourself BEJ branded merch. And lastly, you can also make a one-time donation on PayPal as well, guys. If you are enjoying this video, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Back to the interview. What got you interested in the Asian culture in the first place?
Probably when I was growing up in Philadelphia, my time in Philly, and I was a small, shy little guy, skinny kid, and always worried about the gangs. Gang problems was major at that time. So being a small, quiet kind of guy, I was always worried about my safety.
Okay.
So I learned about karate and Bruce Lee and all of that. So that's what initially got me going in that direction.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was it. So it was martial arts.
Martial arts.
Right?
Martial arts got me started with.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you go into karate at that age?
I went to karate. I wanted to do kung fu, but you had to be Chinese at the time to do.
Really?
Kung fu. Oh yeah.
When was this?
This was a long time ago. A long time ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so you could do karate or you could do judo, and I was able to get involved in karate.
Okay.
And stuck with that for a while, and then later I started studying kung fu.
So you were like what, maybe in your early teens or when you started karate, or?
Yeah, I was probably in late junior high school, so
Yeah,
teenager.
early teenager.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you proceeded to you're a Chan, you said, right? Which is like a Zen master. Like, what's that exactly again? Priest?
The priest came much later.
Okay.
So I went to karate. I did that for a number of years. Got a black belt in that, and then I changed over to kung fu.
Okay.
At that point, which actually fit me better. It fitted my mindset, and it just felt more comfortable to do the kung fu, which is a little softer, but in the philosophy is a little bit different in how the body moves and structures. So that's how I got in from there. And through that, I started doing other stuff. That's when I became involved in Zen and meditation and all of that philosophy with it, and actually Kyudo as well. I really started studying Zen and started studying Kyudo so that I could be a better kung fu instructor.
Okay.
Because you always heard in class, oh, well, the fighting is just a small part of the Budo, but they didn't really go into what the other parts was. So that was up to me to go out and research and find out what the rest of the pie was about.
So tell me, what is Chan? Explain that to us.
Chan is the Chinese word for Zen, and Zen is basically it's life. It's everything. It's not just one thing. You have different parts of it. We call kung fu. Doing kung fu is moving Chan, moving Zen.
Okay.
Tai Chi is moving Zen. Sitting meditation is sitting meditation, but it's still Chan.
Okay.
It's still Zen. You're doing sitting Zen when you're doing meditation. When I'm playing flute, the Shakuhachi, that's it's called blowing Zen, which you're using your breath and making these sounds, the same as if you were doing chanting or praying out loud or singing. That's still Chan. That's part of Zen, part of Chan.
Okay.
So it's not just one thing that's Chan. Everything is Chan.
So you're a Chan practitioner then?
I'm a Chan practitioner, but I'm also a Chan priest.
Okay. So you say you teach people as well.
Right.
So what would you teach them? If I was a student, for instance, and you're going to teach me about Chan, how would you go about doing that?
Again, it's going to depend on what aspect you want to know about.
Okay.
So if you want to know about motion Chan, then Kung Fu, you would have to start learning the basics of Kung Fu.
I see.
And you would understand and you learn about the use of power and being in touch with your environment. And the other day when I was talking about, you asked me on the boat, well, what is it that you need to be aware of when you're sailing? And I said, everything, your environment. You have to be in balance with that. That's Chan.
Okay.
That's part of Chan. So Chan is included with sailing because it's something that you do and how you relate to everything. It's said that everything, there's no duality in Zen and Chan. Everything is connected. We're connected. We're connected to these trees, to these birds. You know, you go through scientific things and they will tell, oh yeah, well, we're all connected at the atomic level. So that's the idea, the philosophy behind Chan, that we're connected that way. So, but if you were interested in doing meditation, then that would be a different, just only meditation, that would be a different path. You have to learn how to sit, and there's breath that comes with it, and posture, and that type of thing. So, but that's also the same with doing Shakuhachi playing, or flute playing, or even Western playing, guitar playing. You learn your basics, your scales, your position. Classical guitar especially, it's this way and hold it such. So it all blends in together. So it depends on what aspect of it that you want to do.
Okay.
If you can select this, or you can do the whole thing.
Okay. Understood. I never understood exactly what it was, but now I understand that Chan is an umbrella term.
Right.
There's different prongs to it.
Right.
Okay.
Just like with people say, oh, you're doing Kung Fu. Well, Kung Fu doesn't mean fighting.
Okay. See, that I think that's news to a lot of people that are watching, even myself.
Yeah.
Because when you said Kung Fu, I'm thinking about like martial art, that's all I'm thinking about.
That's only a small part of
Okay,
it.
there you go.
That's only a smart of it. The actual word Kung Fu means that a skill that you put a lot of time and energy and practice into to achieve that. So a good high quality carpenter, he has good kung fu.
Ah.
A good cook, good chef who's making this meal and it's great, he has good kung fu.
Okay.
Ballerina, good kung fu. Good singer, great tones and works the scales and good voice control and breath control, good kung fu.
Okay. Okay. See, I'm actually being taught indirectly. So I'm not like a student where you're teaching me now, because now I'm
Yes.
learning. Your introduction into the Asian culture, right, was through karate, kung fu, Zen, and you met your wife in America as well.
Right.
Right, and she's Japanese as well.
Right.
And that's what linked you to Japan.
That's
right?
what linked me to Japan, because originally most of my friends in the group that I associated with in California, Chinese.
Okay.
I was part of the Chinese community, not Japan. I had no plans to come to Japan.
Okay. So your wife wanted to come, you said?
The wife wanted to come back. She loved America at first until she got there. After a few years, she had said, I'm tired of the discrimination here and people looking down on me and da-da-da-da. And she was the oldest daughter of oldest child of two. Her mother was getting older, and she wanted to come back to Japan to help her mother.
Okay.
So I was retiring, and I said, sure, why not? We could sail over there and make an adventure of it, and I could learn a couple things. And originally it was just supposed to have been for a couple years.
Okay.
But then she said, well, I really like to just go ahead and stay there. And I thought, well, okay, we can set up this business with the boat, and I could learn some Shakuhachi and continue my Kyudo studies and other things. So, yeah, it worked out.
Okay, so let me ask this question, right? Because you were in the Chinese community, but your wife is Japanese.
Right.
So how did that happen? How did you meet your wife?
I met my wife through introduction through a friend, a mutual acquaintance.
Okay.
So that's how that happened, and it wasn't like through the Chinese community. It was just being a person. And,
so your destiny was like tied to Japan, but you never knew that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
At least remember this part of your life, actually.
Yeah,
This part of the journey.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So the first is like Chinese, and now it's a Japan type journey.
Right.
So tell us about the sailing journey, which we spoke about on the boat. I think it's fascinating. I'm fascinated by that. I'm in love actually with this sailing thing now. It seems like something that I want to explore a little bit more, right? So you were sailing from California, you said, to Japan. That was the goal.
That was the goal, right.
Right? And you were doing it, you and your wife alone on the boat, right? Battling the waves.
Right.
And then it was cut short. Where again was it? Mexico? Where was it?
We sailed from San Francisco down to Mexico. We stayed in Mexico for 4 months on the boat. And then we were going to go, actually from Mexico first down to South Pacific to Tahiti. Okay. We set out to do that, but then ran into some problems, so turned back and went back to Mexico, to the marina. Okay. And then in Mexico, I did some stuff and fixed up some things and made some adjustments. And then we set off, said, well, we'll forget about going to Tahiti. We'll just go straight to Hawaii and then over to Japan. Okay. So we set off for Hawaii, and I guess fate. There's a saying about man plans and heaven ordains, or man plans and God laughs, because usually it's an easy trip to get to Hawaii. The wind blows towards Hawaii, so you can just get up, set yourself up, and you're pretty much set to go. But for us, this time, the wind was blowing the opposite direction.
Ah, I see.
So we're fighting the wind the whole time, and you can't just sail straight. You have to zigzag to go here. You have to go like this. You can't just go like that.
I see.
So doing that, and then at night, we'd stop. A couple times we tried to keep going, but we lost autopilot, so we had to stop it in the night. And one night, we got up and I only had one rudder, so I couldn't steer that well. I tried to fix it and rig it up and keep going, and it wasn't really working. So after maybe a day and a half of trying that, I turned around and started to go back. And of course, the wind changes again now. now it's blowing again facing me. So I'm fighting to try and make this course with half a steering, half a rudder.
Yeah.
And it wasn't happening. We would make, say, 50 miles during the day and then have to stop to rest at night, and it would drift back and lose 25, 30 miles.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. And then there was a big, unusual storm up in California causing there was a gale, the big waves that come down into Mexico. So that wasn't working out at all. And storm warnings, and was trying to get in touch with the Coast Guard and could barely hear them because we were so far out. And so I put out what's called a sea anchor to keep us in place relative. But there was this thing called chafing. It means the line rubs on the rail. And if that happens and rubs through and breaks, you're adrift.
Okay.
So I was really paranoid about that. But I was trying it. My wife was like, oh, and she was so worried that she was starting to stutter.
Okay.
And then when I finally got a clear idea of the weather report, and there was waves were coming towards us, they were expecting something like 8-meter waves, so she stayed. And so no steering, and the motor wasn't quite working right, and it couldn't sail because I couldn't steer.
Okay.
So I said, okay, well, we'll just call for help. So I had the emergency unit on so I pressed that, and a boat came, a ship, oil tanker from Greece.
Okay.
Just happened to be somewhat relatively near, because otherwise they were going to try to reach the Mexican Army, Mexican Navy, to come get us. So we, this oil tanker came and picked us up, took us on board. They said, we got here just at the right time, because an hour later we wouldn't have been able to pick you up.
Okay.
It would have had to been done by helicopter, and you would have had to jump in the water and get pulled out of the water.
Okay.
So we got got taken to the ship, and they put us on there, and it was kind of funny, like a movie. We're fighting these waves, the boat is going like this, and we're trying to climb up the ladder.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but once we were on there, it was nice. The captain put us in the owner's cabin, and the crew, all Filipino crew there, were very nice, and they made sure we had food to eat and taken care of, and tour of the boat. But then once we got back to the States, man, the border patrol people, Homeland Security, and they treated us like we were terrorists or something.
Really?
Really. I was shocked, because I had an American passport and she had her car, but they're like examining it and magnifying glass and holding it up to the light. And, what are you doing out here? And why are you doing this? And, oh.
Yeah. Wow.
So, yeah, that was a trip. So we got to Long Beach and stayed a couple of days, got organized, stayed with a friend, and then caught a plane to California.
So you were living on the boat as well, right? So living on the boat, visiting countries, exploring, like a true adventurer, right?
Right.
So you end up coming to Japan. And before that, what got you into sailing, right? Because we spoke about karate and just the Asian culture overall. What about sailing? What got you started in sailing?
I got started with sailing, basically, I went, when I was a hippie with some friends, we went out on a boat that belonged to a movie star, Jane Mansfield, old movie star.
Okay.
Marilyn Monroe, Jane Mansfield.
Okay, that era.
That era.
Okay.
Her boat. Friend of ours owned it. Friend of mine owned it.
Okay.
So went out with him, and I thought, this is really nice. Years later, I was looking for a place to live. I was living in the back of my Kung Fu studio, but I wanted my own place as well. So I figured, if I get a houseboat, that would work. But a houseboat, too much gas and not really movable.
Okay.
So a friend suggested a boat, and I went, oh yeah, a sailboat. That would work, because I could set it up, and it has a kitchen in there and sleeping quarters and all that. And so that's how I got the sailboat. And took like a weekend, not even a weekend. One day, my ex-employer took me out and showed me the basics.
Okay.
And then I went out and just practiced. And then later, I took actual instructions and became a certified instructor for this group called American Sailing Association, and they're all over the world.
Okay. And then you're sailing in Japan as well, so you took that with you to Japan. Right. Where are we right now?
We're in Nishiomiya, Japan, so it's just below Kobe, Japan, on the Osaka Bay. This is a 26-foot half-keel sailboat, and it's a sloop rig. That means it just has the one main mast and then a front sail, which is a jib, and it's basically relatively easy to sail. That's what most people have. It's affordable. Sailing culture in Japan is different from California, where I started. In California, there's a lot of affordable boats. In Japan, it's more considered for the rich people here, the people that have money. You can pick up a boat really cheap, but finding a place to park it, to moor it, is expensive. But the culture, all sailing, boating culture is, you get this camaraderie with the boat people. You don't, it's not them and this person, it's us, we sailors. It's a lot of camaraderie between sailors. And they always look out for each other. For a while, I was one of only two black sailing instructors in California. Now I'm probably the only black sailing instructor in Japan. It's an adventure because you have to explain things so that people understand. My Japanese is not perfect, but most of the sailing terms are in English. So I can speak Japanese to them and they can figure out what's going on. Also hand gestures, pointing, but the basic things, the basic terminology is the same. Just filling in things takes a little knowledge of Japanese. So it's pretty safe, and it's not just for the rich people. If that would depend on where you are, of course. Like I said before earlier, in California, you can go sailing by joining a sailing club. UC Berkeley has a sailing club, or you can buy a used boat relatively cheap, fix it up. It's not just for rich people. It's a good sport for anybody.
So Shakuhachi, right? Very, very interesting, I think. How did you get involved in that?
Shakuhachi, long time ago, I heard the sound of it on a record someplace, and I thought, that's a really cool sound. So the musician in me was stimulated from that sound.
Okay.
And I wanted to know more about it. So I tried to play it on my own, and I was okay with it. But then when I said to come to Japan, I said, I'm going to find a teacher. And what had happened is I was walking to the train station one day from my house and just going around the corner, and I hear Shakuhachi. Oh, where's that coming from? Oh, this house right here. So I listened, and yeah, okay. So I got my wife to write a note about if I could, could I take some instructions? And
Okay.
we left it in the mailbox, and the person, my sensei, called my wife and said, yeah, you can, I teach.
Okay.
You can come by and say, and it happens that he spoke English.
Okay.
So
Nice.
that got me started with the Shakuhachi. But at that time, I was still only interested in it musically. I wanted to play Shakuhachi and bring that into some of the bands and some of the music that I was doing.
Okay.
I wasn't aware of the Zen part of that until later.
Okay.
Then I'm saying, oh, this is interesting, because there's this group that doesn't consider the Shakuhachi a musical instrument. They consider it a Zen tool for meditation and for spiritual advancement. So I learned about that later on. And then I thought, oh, well, this would help me because I'm not teaching as much, so I don't have that outlet for the spiritual guidance in doing Chan, but through the Shakuhachi, I can do that. And that's when I start pursuing becoming a Kumoso.
Okay.
To express that Buddhist priest aspect that I had this sense of responsibility to put out there and connect and engage people with.
So that how you met the priest, the Buddhist priest that we had? We were at the temple,
Right.
and had dinner and all that.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
stuff. So that's how you met him through
Through the
Shakuhachi?
Shakuhachi, right. Well, a friend of mine, I would go out to Nara and go around with him practicing doing the Kumoso work.
Okay.
He met the priest that we had dinner with. He met him, and then he told me, he said, "Oh, there's someone near you that's a priest. He's an abbot at this temple. He has a temple, and it's not that far from you, and he's doing Shakuhachi, and he wants to really put that together with his Buddhist practice as well." So I said, "Oh, interesting." So I contacted him, and then I went out to his temple, and we hit it off. We were connecting, and then I invited him to another Shakuhachi group that I was with, and so we start being together more, which is I'm meeting with tomorrow, Shakuhachi, and these are older people, older players.
Okay.
So that's how I got involved with him, and then I started going out to help him with his Zen cafe and playing Shakuhachi for the cafe, and we connected on that level, and then found out that he did Tai Chi, so I helped him with his Tai Chi.
Okay.
This is Gasho, Osho-san. He's the abbot, the head priest here at the Jodo-shu Temple in Amagasaki, Japan. Shakuhachi, it's an old Japanese bamboo flute. It originated in China. It's considered by many to be not a musical instrument, but a Zen tool for meditation, for understanding yourself, for connection with the universe. There was a Zen sect a long time ago that instead of chanting and doing prayers, they would play Shakuhachi. And even now, it's used as a way of making an offering, spiritual offering, at an altar or at funerals or different functions. It's played. It's considered a tool, Buddhist tool, Zen Buddhist tool. This is my official Kumoso license from Myoji Temple in Kyoto. So this says you're not allowed to beg in Japan, but this says that I'm performing religious practice, so it's okay. I can go anywhere and do what I do. Because it's not supposed to be your ego. So you wear this to, the music is important, playing is important, not who's playing. So that's why they wore this. So it's not, the person doesn't matter, the sound, the playing matters. I'm a Chan priest, which Chan is the Chinese word for Zen. And I'm a Chan priest, not a Japanese Zen priest. I'm a Chinese Chan priest, Buddhist. It used to be my outlet for teaching was teaching Kung Fu, but I don't get to teach that much here. And as a priest, usually they go out to hospitals and jails and things like that, and like a Christian chaplain, that type of thing. Since my Japanese isn't that good, I came across someone who is doing Kumoso. So for me, this is a good way to show the Dharma. Dharma means natural laws, natural connections. So I could do this as my outlet for being a Chan priest. And what I do is I play, because I play from the heart and spirit. It touches some people, sound heals, vibration heals. So I'm ministering to the public this way. This is called engaged Buddhism. And for me, instead of just going out and standing on the corner and begging, I'm just giving. And if someone wants to give back, make a donation, that's good. And what I do is they make a donation, I take it home, I put it on the altar, I pray over it, I chant over it, and then later I will take that money and make a donation to some type of charity or some type of community service. They see more what I represent rather than who I am. So they don't get shocked. Although the Chinese, if they see me take off that, then they're like, oh, they get that shock. But the Japanese, they don't, oh, he's, and that's what they see. They'll come up, they'll bow, make a donation, they'll bow, and that's it. That's all they see. That's all they care about. So I like the anonymity of wearing the hood, because they don't get that shock right away. Oh, this is a foreigner trying to be something, because you don't have to be, anybody can wear that. Anybody can dress up like that and go do it. But I had the badge, the sign, the license that says, oh, this guy is official. And as far as I know, I'm maybe the first, maybe the only Black Komuso that's registered in Japan, in the world, maybe, probably.
So, okay, in order to become a Komuso, right, was there something that you had to learn or go through to understand what? Was that taught at the temple? How did that part go?
Well, the priest we were with, he's also Kumoso, but
Okay.
it's a different path to be a Kumoso.
Okay.
And usually you only get there by having a Kumoso teacher, and they will teach you all the stuff that you need to know.
So you were taught by the priest?
No.
So how did you?
I've actually been in it longer than him.
From back in America?
Not back in America, only here.
Okay.
I just joined maybe the temple, the Zen temple that is the headquarters for this area in Kyoto maybe 2 years ago, maybe 3 now.
Okay.
But I got to be a Kumoso from my instructor. My teacher has a friend who is a Kumoso priest, and he's high level in that ranking.
Okay.
So he sponsored me to become a Kumoso.
Okay.
And in order to do that, I didn't learn from him. I learned from other places, but I had to go to this concert, this presentation. Actually, it was this old Japanese temple downtown Osaka, and it was the day they were having something, and I to go in and play in front of all these old Kumosos, all these old guys, and I had to play in front of them to be accepted. And then after I played, then my sponsor says, Fuu Miyatani-san, I'm going to sponsor him to be a Kumoso.
Okay.
And then I was able to fill out the application and submit the application. And
Okay.
That's how
So
happened.
Kumoso, is there an English translation for it, or is it just a title?
It's a transient priest. If you watch older samurai pictures, you'll see them going through the towns and they're playing and they're wearing this basket. And they had kind of an weird reputation, and they were looked up to, but they were also feared because because they could go anywhere with this basket over their head. They had permission to go anywhere where other people couldn't go.
Okay.
And some ninjas took advantage of that.
Okay.
And they were working as spies for the shogunate. So eventually the shogun, the emperor or somebody banned them. So the whole thing was shut down. But then later on, it started coming back again. They were traditionally Zen priests, but instead of doing chanting and that type of thing, they would play Shakuhachi. That was their outlet for reaching the people and reaching enlightenment, doing the breathing meditation.
Okay. So you mentioned Kung Fu Studio, all right? So you had like a dojo or?
Yes.
So you actually taught Kung Fu as well?
Yeah, I had a business. That was my business. Well, I was a graphic designer. I worked for a big, one of those Fortune 500 companies as a graphic designer.
Okay.
But at night, I had my own business teaching Kung Fu.
What do you do now in Japan?
I do sailing instruction. I do music. I play with several bands, actually 4 right now, maybe 5. And I have my own solo act that I do. When I was down and feeling sad, you came and comfort me when I was sad and feeling down. You came and comfort me. What else I do? I teach meditation.
Okay.
I do the Kyudo thing, but that's not really a job. And sometimes during the summer, I work part-time for the city. I'm a part-time city employee. I do things like work in these kind of parks and raking stuff or trimming leaves and things. So different stuff. And sometimes I get calls to do TV spots and commercials and some modeling.
Okay.
Yeah, so various stuff. I stay busy. Some private Kung Fu classes, I teach that, and the meditation.
What was it like teaching Kung Fu? All right, it's like you were barred in the beginning, all right, because you weren't Chinese.
Right.
Right, and then, so you took it up later on. So what was it like having your own dojo, teaching it? Like, what was that experience like? Do you miss it?
I've never thought of that. Because I still teach I still teach privately here, so I don't miss it that much. But I liked having my own place. That was nice, and it felt like I was contributing to the system, to the Kung Fu family, carrying on the tradition. That was one of the things one of my teachers said. Well, since you're carrying on the tradition now, you need to know this, and that. So after a while, I was part of that Chinese family. You have to, there's things that you learn after you pretty much paid your dues, and you get accepted as so this person is serious about what they're doing, so we need to teach him,
So you've been in Japan now for how long?
It will be 7 years in July.
7 years.
7 years.
Okay, so what got you into that, into Kyudo?
I got into Kyudo to help with my Zen practice and help me become a better Kung Fu instructor.
Okay.
Yeah, and people that don't know think, well, they're completely different, but no, they're not. It's the same thing, the understanding of your body and making the weapon part of what you are. There's that saying about becoming one with whatever, the sword or something. So it's just, we have a lot of weapon training in Kung Fu. So that's another weapon to me. But there's a philosophy that goes with it, and attention to detail and breath and respect that comes from the tradition. And it's a very complicated, it's extremely hard. It looks very simple that you just walk out and...
It doesn't look simple to me, though.
It's hard.
Because I'm like, okay, you got to memorize all these other things. I was watching you, so I'm like, okay, there's a lot of intricacies to it.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
It is.
I'm here at Kishiwada Kyudo. It is the only indoor Kyudo dojo in Osaka. And I'm going to be doing Kyudo practice routine, formal Kyudo shoot.
How can humanity benefit from Kung Fu, Zen, all that?
Understanding our connection to everything in each other. Each other and everything. Like I said a little earlier about there's no duality. Everything is in interdependent. And everything changes. There's nothing that's permanent except change. So you have to be able to adapt to what's going on.
Yeah.
Adapt to your environment. That's how you survive, is being able to adapt. That's one of the main things about Zen and Kung Fu and all those training is adapting and understanding your interconnection to everything. It's not man is here and all this stuff, animals are here and plants are here. No, we're connected. Everything depends on everything else. So you destroy the ocean with plastic and stuff, it gets into the food system. You eat that, you're killing yourself. You pollute the air. And you say, oh, well, it's just going to blow over. But we have to breathe that. So it gets into us. Everything comes through us, and we're through everything else.
What's your personal philosophy? Is there something that you live your life by, or maybe like a life advice that you can impart to people that are watching that they could take on, or maybe something for people to contemplate or ponder?
Ponder. Well, a couple things. One is keys to successful life would be timing, perspective, and who you know. So that kind of covers everything. So if you have a good perspective on stuff, it doesn't matter what's going on. You see people in other countries that are really poor, no money, but if you need something and they have it, they will give it to you. And they're happy. The kids are happy and running around. I mean, they may want stuff, but basically they're happier. They're much happier than a lot of people in the States are.
Potentially.
Yeah. And timing, if you arrive at the right place at the right time, you can be successful. Or if you know the right people, you can be successful. So timing, perspective, and who you know. The other thing is I had a teacher in junior high school, and she says, don't be afraid to be different. And that stuck with me all the time. So I would say that's for anybody coming to Japan or anywhere, just don't be yourself. Don't be afraid to be different. You don't have to copy other people. Concentrate on who you are. Be yourself. Don't be afraid.
So you're a musician as well. So tell me about that journey. Was that before Japan?
Oh yeah, that was when I was young.
Okay.
I started playing at an early age.
What instrument or instruments?
Well, my first instrument that I took lessons on was the violin.
Okay.
My grandfather played violin, and he played tuba. in college. And I found his violin at home. And I asked him if I could take it. And he says, yeah. So I took lessons on that.
Okay.
I really didn't like it that much,
Okay.
but it was something, and I really wanted to play flute, but the instructor wouldn't let me take flute and violin at the same time. He says, no, you started this, you have to stick with it.
Okay.
But beyond that, I played guitar. I took guitar and piano. What else? Then later, I switched from playing guitar with the bands, to playing bass because I couldn't find a bass player to play what I wanted when I was trying to get a record contract in California.
Okay.
So I picked up the bass and started working with bass because there were hundreds of guitar players, but there weren't that many bass players. So when I became a bass player, I was working, I got work.
Okay.
And then I taught myself to play harmonica. And I taught myself a little classical flute playing. And I took a little bit of lessons with that. And then later, after I came to Japan, well, I started playing Shakuhachi on my own, trying to teach myself. But when I came to Japan, I thought, well, I want to do this the right way. So I got a teacher and I started playing Shakuhachi.
So I'm getting the sense, let me know if I'm wrong, that anything you're drawn to, just do it. Like, you never feel overwhelmed in terms of like hobbies or different pursuits. You're like, okay, you want to learn this instrument, you're going after it. You want to do this martial art, you're doing it. Do you believe in like just packing your life with all the things, like just exercising all your talents, all your gifts? You believe in that?
Yes, exactly. Life is short, so you might as well just go out there and grab the gusto and do what you can, because we don't stay young all the time, forever, and as long as we're healthy, we got to take advantage of that. And some people think, oh, well, you're doing this and you're doing that and you're doing something, this and that and the other, and it's all these different things, but to me, it's not I'm doing different things. It's all the same thing.
Yeah.
I see the connection between them all. It's just different expressions of that. The expressions of doing photography and playing music and doing graphic design and sailing. There's that Zen thing about everything is connected. So that I see everything is
And it's
different.
all you.
Yeah, it's all me. Right.
Different expressions of who you are.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so no box.
There's right. It's definitely outside the box. It's like the world, every day is not the same.
Yeah.
But it's still the same world.
Yeah.
It may be cloudy, partly cloudy. It may be raining. It may be snowing, but it's still the same day. It's still the same thing.
True. And I think that's important for a lot of people to know,
Yeah.
because people tend to put you in a box if they know you for one thing.
Right,
It's like,
right,
oh, well, this person draws, that's it.
Right,
Where you're
right,
like,
right.
in your mind, you're like, well, I also like music.
Yeah.
I also like dancing. I also like this and that. So it's true. I
Right.
think it's an important message
Yeah,
to go forward.
it is. And what you don't know is, I haven't told you, is I also do ceramics,
Okay.
pottery, and stuff
Another expression of who you are.
expression of who I am. Because I had to study that in college. When I was becoming a graphic designer.
Okay.
They wanted you to be well-rounded. So I had to do photography, I had to do ceramics, I had to do drawing and painting.
Okay, so all
Yeah.
visual arts,
Right,
like if it's
right.
connected, you're doing it.
Exactly.
Let's talk about that. Black experience.
Okay.
What's that like in Japan, right? You came here 7 years ago, right? So you can maybe compare that to back in the States. How do you feel being a black person in Japan?
I don't really think about it that much. I'm just living. And I treat people with respect, and they treat me with respect. I see an old person walking through the neighborhood with me. I may not go over there and talk to them because I'm kind of shy and quiet, but I give them a little bow, they will bow back. Sometimes you're standing around and somebody will come up and start talking to you. When I'm doing my Kumoso stuff with the basket on, and the older people will come up and make a donation and then bow, and some of them will start talking, and then I'll have to speak with them. So, and then they're maybe a little surprised when they find out that I'm a black guy, but it doesn't faze them. I'm like,
But don't they see your hands?
but they have dark. They can tan really dark.
Okay.
And the other day when we were filming, I didn't have my stuff on, but there's a covering that goes over the hands,
I see.
and then I have gloves that only my fingertips
I see.
stick out.
Okay.
So you can't really tell
Until you take it off.
until I take it off.
Okay.
And some Chinese tourists, when they see me do that, they're like, oh. they get really shocked. But the Japanese, they don't really care that much.
Okay.
You know?
So your Black experience here is pretty much when you come, you're just being yourself. You show respect.
I show
you get
respect,
It's-
and a lot of places, like when I do the city work, do some working with the city, some of those people have never spoke or with an American or
Okay.
foreigner at all,
Okay.
especially not a black guy.
Mhm.
Oh, they're like, ooh. And so they were kind of shocked, but I'm one of them now. Oh, Fusan, will you do this? Fusan, can you help me with this? And da 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 da. And a couple times some of them, my co-workers, have hurt their shoulders or something. And so I said, oh, let me see what I can do for you. And I'll do some Qigong, Kung Fu, healing kind of thing to them. And they're like, oh, arigato sensei. So they're very respectful. So these are just blue collar workers. And then I had the sailing people, they have money. And that's a different level of people there. But they're respectful too, because I'm their sensei.
Yeah.
And the Kyudo people. And so I don't come off to them strange with the chip or my soda. And I understand the difference between something that's being maliciously asked about or just they don't know.
Curiosity,
Just
right?
curious. Yeah, exactly. So if you're walking around with the chip on your shoulder and like I'm a black guy and this is going to ask me these questions and oh, how dare you ask me that? It's not like America. Oh, they don't have that underground intent to put you down. They want to know because they haven't experienced that.
So it's a different experience entirely from the States?
Yeah.
For the better?
Definitely for the better. Definitely for the better. You know, even getting stopped by the police, it's definitely better. You don't walk around in fear.
I said this to you yesterday, right? But that it seems like you have sort of embedded yourself in the community, like, you know, with the priest, right? The different martial arts that you do. So, like, for you personally, like, do you think it's important to, when you go somewhere, like Japan, to embed yourself in the community, sort of assimilate, you know, like get to know people, explore your interests and try to like get connected, to make it your home, to make wherever you are your home?
Because I don't have any plans to go back to the States except to visit.
Okay.
Yes, it is important to make the place your home, to become part of the community. It's a whole different experience of being involved with Japanese rather than being involved with the expat community and then kind of sticking your finger into the Japanese community. It's a different experience.
Yeah.
You become part of the community, then it's mind-opening.
It's a different experience.
Yeah,
It is. Yeah. Like I've met some interesting people, like the priest, for instance, and just other people. So
Right.
I can see the importance of that.
Yes.
Don't be on the fringes. You got to get inside.
Right. Meet the people. Meet the actual people. That's how you're going to really learn about Japan.
Indeed.
Yeah.
How can people find you online if you want to get in contact with you?
Okay. I'm on Facebook under Fuu Miyatani French on Facebook. I'm on Instagram under Zen Kaze, Zenkaze, I believe it is. And I have blogs, couple blogs, Zen Sekai, so WordPress, Zen Sekai. So if you do a search for Zen Sekai and it comes up Zen Sekai, that's me. You'll see all these different things.
We'll put the links in the description as well.
Yeah, that's probably the simplest way. And I have a website which is called Osaka Bay Shaolin. OsakaBayShaolin.com.
Okay. French, thank you so much for sharing your story. Guys, thank you so much for watching. And remember, if you like the video, please give it a big thumbs up. And remember to subscribe to this channel for weekly videos on the Black experience across the globe. Until next time, bye for now.